The dominoes just keep on falling in the world of gaming. It's not shocking, but it's baffling. I mean, this kind of stuff has been happening for years now, but Microsoft today in the news, it's been found out that they've closed several more studios. I thought everything was supposed to be good after they made these big acquisitions, right? But apparently not. I mean, Microsoft's not the only one. Sony's done the same thing, They've shut down studios, they've laid off workforces, moved people around, but as far as the competition goes as getting rid of employees, seems like Microsoft's winning. And that's not a good thing. But this has me concerned for the future of gaming for these two brands, Sony and Microsoft. Nintendo, on the other hand, they just keep doing what Nintendo does. Nintendo does Nintendo. What have these brands been built off of? Microsoft and PlayStation, they're the recognition of their brands are based off of other companies' works, right? Nintendo, the same thing though. Don't get it twisted, because Nintendo, they outsource a lot of their work. They work with a lot of, independent studios and development companies. They have partners. But Nintendo's not acquiring companies and then getting rid of them from what I've seen. I'm not saying Nintendo's never shut anything down or move people around, but we only hear about Microsoft and PlayStation doing this. And today, Microsoft, they shut down a few more studios. I'm just going to scroll down to this letter sent from Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, where he blames the cuts on reprioritizing titles and resources. So in this email, he states that he's sharing the changes we're making to Bethesda and ZeniMax teams. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high-impact titles and further investing in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds, which have nurtured over many decades. So here are the changes going into effect. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but Arcane Austin. This studio will close, with some members of the team joining other studios to work on projects across Bethesda. Arcane Austin has a history of making impactful and innovative games, and it is a pedigree that everyone should be proud of. Apparently not everybody, because only some of the members are gonna be remaining. Not all of them. Redfall's previous update. Okay, that's right. Arcane Austin Redfall. I forgot all about Redfall. People still playing that game, but they state Redfall's previous update will be its last as we end all development on the game. The game and its servers will remain online for players to enjoy. I don't know how many people, like, that game was never really that packed when I was playing it, but it's neither here nor there. But the game's going to remain live, and they're going to make good offers to players who purchase the Hero DLC. Then the next one, Alpha Dog Studios. This studio will also close. We appreciate the team's creativity in bringing Doom to new players. Mighty Doom will sunset on August 7th and will be turning off the ability for players to make any purchases. Tango Gameworks. This one's a big one, man. They're going to close. We're thankful for their contributions to Bethesda and players around the world. Hi-Fi Rush will continue to be available to players on the platforms it is today. What the hell? I thought Hi-Fi Rush was a success. Maybe not. I mean, was it enough of a success that they could retain them and keep working on things? The hell? So they're gone. Roundhouse Games. They're going to be joining ZeniMax Online Studios. Roundhouse has played a key role in many of our recent game launches and bringing them into ZOS to work on the Elder Scrolls Online, which will mean we can do even more to grow the world that millions of players call home. So a lot of consolidations, job losses. Microsoft, man, when they made these big acquisitions, and I swore it was like everything's going to be fine, everybody's going to have a job, and then all of a sudden people don't have jobs. Sony's done the same thing with closing down studios over the years. It's like, this is not anything necessarily new. Like EA Games used to acquire a bunch of studios, and then there'd be cuts and studios that got shut down or absorbed into others. It happens, I think nowadays with gaming, it sucks though. I'm not like saying, oh, this is fine. It just sucks because there's these studios who've built themselves up, who've done some cool things and have helped bring like brand identity to these consoles that they're just lost. But I think things have gotten so big with these companies, Microsoft and Sony, where the competition is so crazy as far as like, okay, the specs of the systems, outshining other people, the crazy graphics, like, and the budgets behind creating these games, right? And as far as graphics go, yeah, there's some beautiful stuff out there on these consoles, but I still haven't been wowed to where I'm like, I needed to have a new console. I needed to get rid of my PS4 to get a PS5, or get rid of my Xbox One to get a Series X. Like, I haven't really been wowed on that end. So I don't know. Like, there's diminishing returns here with graphics and all this other stuff, but it seems like the budgets and the staff needed to create these things keeps increasing. So these companies, they gotta trim the fat somewhere. They gotta trim the fat somewhere. And it makes me curious, like, is the next generation of gaming for these companies, Microsoft and Sony, is it going to change drastically? Or are they going to continue on with this? We have to be the top dog as far as graphics processing and specs, all that kind of stuff. Or are they going to tone it back, which wouldn't make sense? Like, they're just too deep into it, right? But if they continue forward with, like, okay, better specs, which is just going to wind up causing increased development costs and more layoffs and stuff like that. Are they going to continue with that, and then, you know, kind of try to subside the costs there by making sure their games are available across multiple platforms? I mean, we already mostly see it with Microsoft, you know, but Sony, they do release their games on PC as well. We've seen the whole to do with Helldivers too, and I've seen numbers out there as far as like the players out there. I know the whole drama, we talked about it the other day, but when you look at the numbers, like, there's more PC players than there is PS5. So is it going to shift things going into next generation, where these companies focus heavily on PC gaming? Are they going to turn it into where their consoles are essentially PCs, which they already kind of are? But at the same time, like, it just makes me wonder with that. But then, like, what's Nintendo going to be doing? Nintendo, they've been a huge success this generation. Doesn't guarantee that they're going to be a huge success next generation, but they don't do these things. They don't acquire studios and shut them down. They just work with partners, and their brand identity, they're not acquiring companies that, like, has provided brand identity to Nintendo and then shutting them down. But Sony and Microsoft have been doing that. And it's, you know, I scratch my head because I look at, like, the PS5, and there's a lot of cool stuff in the PS5. There's a lot of cool stuff on Xbox, but it's like, what like defines them? You know what I mean? And I'm just not seeing it anymore. I'm not seeing what defines Microsoft. I'm not seeing what defines Sony. I see what defines Nintendo. Nintendo does Nintendo. Mario, Legend of Zelda. They do kind of, you know, jump out a little bit and do other different things that wind up maybe being successful, maybe not, but they're not losing their heads over the stuff. Like, you know, they'll introduce new things, Splatoon, and what was that ARMS game? Like, that didn't do too well, I don't think. But, like, they take their risks, but then they have their safe stuff that just works for them. And their risks, maybe the budgets on them aren't so crazy high to where they have to take, like, oh, well, we can't take any more risks in the future. It still seems like they do, but it just has me concerned with Microsoft and Sony as far as the way they conduct business versus Nintendo, and just where the future of gaming is going to be, especially next generation. All these companies are going to be suiting up. Nintendo, they're behind, so they're going to be the first one out the door with something next generation, which probably won't really be next generation as far as, like, graphics and processing power goes. But what is Sony and Microsoft going to do? It's a crazy thing. You know, there's a lot of companies out there just kind of having issues. Square Enix is one of them. They announced recently that they tanked $140 million in losses due to content abandonment. And there's no clue as to what's been dropped and where. It makes me wonder with them because, you know, their budgets are pretty high with these Final Fantasy games and stuff that they're doing. But then they keep making, like, little side things that don't seem to do too well. Like, a lot of these companies, they'll put out a game and it'll be the talk for like a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then it just disappears. What was the budget on that? Could they afford it? Did they make their money back? And I'm thinking with these budgets and teams being so huge nowadays, like, it's very difficult to become profitable with some of these things. So, there's going to be a shift, I think, with how a lot of these companies work. But there you go, a little rant and ramble for the day. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Bye.